Hello everybody, welcome to the Chennai Cloud User Group. I'm happy that quite a few of you could make it even after this rain havoc in Chennai. So I hope the people who watch on the live stream would also be enjoying this at their home without having to commute all the way. So welcome again. Today the topic that we are going to discuss today will be noSql databases. Srini, who came all along the way from US, is going to have a special talk on noSql as well as about his company Citrus Leaf, which is a specialized noSql database. So I'm very interested into understanding what Citrus Leaf does and also about the general concepts of noSql. As most of you know that noSql is one of the powering engines for cloud technologies. I'm hoping that this particular talk will be of great use for the cloud enthusiasts in Chennai. So let me hand over this to Srini. The first session will be done by Srini, which is a talk. He actually worked in celebrated companies like Yahoo, where he was a senior director for Yahoo Mobile, and then he moved into this company Citrus Leaf, which he co-founded along with his other partner. And Citrus Leaf focuses on noSql database, as I mentioned earlier. He is the CTO of noSql database, so leave no stones unturned. You can shoot any kind of questions that you ask in the regular forums. I think we'll be very happy to take all the questions.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me here. Thanks to Orangescape and Mani and Balaji for Suresh. Appreciate you coming all the way here to spend some time. Let me see how well I can answer questions on noSql. So it's a nice challenge to have. As Mani already said, I'm CTO of Citrus Leaf. But let's just dive into a bunch of trends that are going on, which is driving, among other things, noSql databases. Over the last several years, and I've been part of this at Yahoo, where I had a small mobile product, which we spent time scaling to Yahoo scale, where we ran into a whole bunch of problems. But I'll get into that in a second. The exact dynamic that is going on is more and more businesses are kind of realizing that how they understand users determines how successful they're going to be. These are typically users who are their customers. To give you, I don't have exact statistics here, but think of a company which is about the size of what Yahoo was maybe in about 9 years ago. Yahoo is fairly big. It was not as big as it is now, and similarly, how Google was in those years. There are about 100 to 200 companies like that today, feeding off of Yahoo and Google and Facebook to redirect traffic to them. And the internet, of course, is growing by leaps and bounds, as you can see by the growth of the mobile internet, which is probably going to be dwarfing the normal PC internet over the next several years. And this is something which I have kind of watched over 8 years during my time in mobile. Where I know, that there was no mobile when I started in way, shape or form, except in Japan, a little bit in Europe. And by the time, last year, when I left Yahoo, Yahoo had a 50 million user mobile service, which I had the privilege of running. Now, that level of growth in terms of users coming to websites and mobile sites and all kinds of sites determines that it generates a whole bunch of new data. And typically, some of this you see in real-time advertising. I'll talk about that in a second. There is also other kinds of applications. Twitter. Twitter, for example, has exported their fire hose, and a whole bunch of companies, including Cosmix, which if you know, they have this thing called Tweetbeat, so which they are exploiting that. Advertising I already talked about. Social networks, of course. Facebook has become a platform, which is, I think, a very far-sighted move on their part several years ago. What this has made happen is create a whole bunch of companies which are feeding off of Facebook, like Zynga, for example. There are a whole bunch of other Facebook gaming companies. There's one in Turkey called Yogurt. There are many companies being funded in India that I can't actually speak of the names, but definitely I've spoken to people both recently as well as in this visit as well as earlier, and there is a lot of activity here. And some of these companies are already profitable, interestingly enough. Okay, so I talk quite a bit about all these new applications which are using user data. When I mean user data, I mean millions of users, lots of reads and writes. Okay, many companies which are trying to handle this on a daily basis run into a lot of roadblocks. And the roadblocks are due to the fact that the existing relational database technologies, or I would not even call relational, the legacy database technologies which exist, which I basically, pretty much made my career out of for 15 years, before the Citrus Leaf, essentially ended up not actually, solving their problems. And this is something which I personally faced at Yahoo when we were trying to scale the mobile application we had. We had a very expensive rack system of a database I shall not name, and we just couldn't figure out a way to get our multi-million user application running because we had a bunch of writes which we were doing. The problem was not that the database wouldn't work; it was just not designed to work with so many writes. We had while we of course were doing reads.
This is on Yahoo Mobile.
Yes. So in the end, what I did was there was no open source, there was no NoSQL database at that point. So I assigned a couple of my engineers to go and write a file system which is very robust, and which had some ACID properties and so on. Since I have database background, I just told them how to write the ACID thing for that application, and it was done. We just did that in a few months, and we were done. Now this potentially is a company killer for smaller applications. And this is something which people are seeing over and over again, and I've noticed this over the last few months. I've been presenting Citrus Leaf to a bunch of. I've been doing fundraising for it, and what has happened is a lot of people who I've talked to have mentioned companies which are hitting this roadblock. So there are many solutions, right? Since I'm painting this as such an important problem, there are a huge number of people working on this, solution. So Citrus Leaf is just one among maybe a dozen or so. I just want to talk a little bit about a real-time matching problem. Even though I have a Citrus Leaf picture in there, these are not actually Citrus Leaf slides at all. I mean, they're written by me. That's about it. But there are a few of them specific to the product itself. I'll point out in a little while. Typically, when we're talking about a real-time advertising platform, what it actually tries to do is solve a problem which I'm calling as real-time matching. Real-time matching in this case involves a whole bunch of requests coming in. And then typically from Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I pick all of the the famous internet sites. I should have put some sites from India like Sifi and so on. But the main thing is what these customers do. The real-time advertising platforms are typically our customers too. So what these people do is they store about 1 to 10K of data per man, woman, and child in the world. So think of all of our stuff, we thought we had privacy, it's gone. So it's all being kind of monitored, and based on whatever it is that you allow them to monitor. It's not like they're doing anything devious. So you go to websites, you have cookies enabled in your browser.